So at my bookstore recently, I had my first author signing event. And a few years ago, when I was doing a book club at the library, I chose a book for us to read called Banned Book Club by Ryan Estrada and his wife, Kim Hyun Suk. And the book was about her actual lived experience as someone who participated in a banned book club in Korea in the 1980s when censorship was a really big issue. A lot of things were banned, dancing in clubs, reading certain books. They had a curfew. And we read that book in my book club. And then, with the recent events in Korea, the president attempting to declare martial law. Thankfully, it was overturned. He got impeached. He's been arrested. But yeah, it sparked a lot of talks about things like that going on. But I'm also American, and in America, we have a problem with book bans and censorship, especially right now. I mean, it's been going on for a while, but now it's really affecting a lot of people and a lot of, especially libraries, school libraries, things like that. Even bookstores are starting to ban books. It's getting really serious. So when we had Ryan and his wife, Hyunsuk, come and visit us, actually we did an author signing, but we also had a lot of my members of my book club. And some of them had read the book when I assigned it before, the banned book club. And their new book is called No Rules Tonight. And it's also about that time period. And what they did is they asked friends of hers when she was in the 80s, when she was in school and mostly in college. And she asked friends of hers about their experience, and they compiled them and created this graphic novel. And it's technically historical fiction, but most of the stories were pretty true facts or lived experiences, and they compiled them into the graphic novel. And a lot of the main story of the book, No Rules Tonight, is how she has been given this book, The Art of Loving, which is, I think they put it in the book because it's been a banned book in America. But yeah, they have someone give her this book with a list of names and are like, you're going to be in charge of the banned book club now. And they go up into the mountains to have Christmas Eve in the mountains, and it's like their first time not having curfew. So the book goes into, censorship, book bans, and the police torturing people and trying to get information and not allowing, kids after curfew, even when they're teenagers and adults, into their college years. And yeah, so as we were sitting around discussing their book and the ideas in the book, book banning and censorship, Ryan and I are both American, and we were discussing how in America right now there are a lot of book bans. And he actually said that he visits America sometimes and goes to the city council meetings or the government meetings where they have people who go and say, oh, this book should be banned. It shouldn't be allowed in our library. And he said that actually only a handful of people is responsible for a majority of the book bans in the US. And I looked up an article and I actually found out that it's true. So I found a few articles on this topic, and one of them says that 71% of voters oppose book bans. But yeah, there is a handful of people who will travel, even out of state, to go to city council, town council meetings and say, oh, this book should be banned. It shouldn't be allowed in the library. It shouldn't be allowed in the school. And the reason they give is often because it deals with topics that they deem inappropriate for kids. They'll say, oh, this book was in the kids section. And then Ryan was telling me a story about how after one of these meetings, he said, okay, show me where the book is in the library. And it was not in the children's section, So this one article that I'm reading, it says that majority of subjects that were banned, the banned content, are violence, physical abuse, topics about mental health, well-being, bullying, death or grief, racism, LGBTQ plus characters, mentions of teen pregnancy, abortion, that kind of thing. And the two top states that ban books are Texas and Florida, which is not really a surprise. But my home state of Tennessee was number 10. And there was an article in the Washington Post about this one woman who says she will never stop challenging books. Her name is Jennifer Peterson, and she orders books from Amazon, highlights the passages she thinks are inappropriate, keeps them, takes them to city council meetings, and will say this book should be banned for this reason. So this says, a Washington Post analysis of thousands of challenges nationwide found that 60% of all challenges in the 2021 to 2022 school year came from 11 adults, each of whom objected to dozens, sometimes close to 100 books in their districts. But also, according to Ryan, they're not only going to their districts, they're going to other districts. For example, John Green's books have been a target of bans, especially Looking for Alaska, and he's talked about that topic a lot. He's talked about how they only ban it for this one specific scene or few pages, and how the intent of the scene is to show, an unfulfilling relationship and analyze, relationships between teenagers. But it gets just taken out of context, I'm a bookstore owner, but I'm also a parent. I believe that it's my responsibility to know what information is out there, and it's my responsibility to learn and read and then provide information to my kids in an age-appropriate way. And I think a lot of these book bans are trying to ban books for everyone. Take it out of the library. It shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be in the bookstore. It shouldn't be at school. But the thing is that, you don't have to go there and read that book. You don't have to give that to your kids. And it's really dangerous that people are saying this book should be entirely banned. People should not have access to it when it could provide really good information for some people. For example, like sex ed is a big topic among these kind of book bans. And I lived in Tennessee, where we had an abstinence-only program in our state. So our sex ed didn't technically legally have to give us any information besides just don't do it. And that's really harmful because if you don't have the information, and as research has shown, states with abstinence only as opposed to all-inclusive sex ed, those states actually have higher rates of teen pregnancy, and it's just really harmful overall. So a lot of books, even if they're technically sex ed, if they're for a younger audience, they don't necessarily have to talk about that aspect of it. A lot of things that I've come across that I find useful is things like teaching kids consent, which you can teach and should teach from a young age. So for example, even my son's school had a Zoom meeting for us parents, and the teacher was telling us about how, you can ask your kid for a hug or a kiss, or ask if you're allowed to go in their room, or ask, do you want me to be in the bathroom with you? Because at a certain age, they should have their own privacy, their own, right to their own bodily autonomy. And I really think that's important. And it's important for me to ask him, but I think it's also important for him to ask me. Because sometimes I don't want to be touched as a parent. I don't want him to jump on me or grab me or whatever. So I'll be like, look, I respect your body and you should respect mine. And then it bleeds over into his other relationships with his teacher, with his friends, with strangers. When I was a little kid, the culture was very much, oh, give that person a hug. Oh, go over and say bye or whatever. And sometimes I would feel uncomfortable. And I don't want to put that kind of thing on my kids. And I think it's more common for people of my generation to read parenting books where it advocates for teaching that kind of consent to younger kids. And banning all books of all kind, outright, that's really dangerous because people need information. And then another thing that Ryan said in our discussion, he was saying people don't want to let kids read books about abuse or death or grief or that kind of thing. But there are kids who experience it. And if you normalize it for them, if you say that happened and that wasn't okay and it wasn't your fault, that kind of thing. That's really important because otherwise they're just alone with their feelings and that can be really scary. Yeah, I found this other article because the other day, after Trump took office, I saw that the Department of Education's website, like edu.org, had, a statement on there saying that the Biden's book ban hoax. They were saying they were not going to listen to complaints against book bans anymore. They were saying this is not real and we're not going to deal with it. So, for example, previously, if there were book bans, people could contest them, complain about them, and say, hey, you should still let us have access to this book. That's not fair. And according to this administration, now they're saying, oh, we're not going to look into those anymore. Because they're actively trying to censor people and censor books and censor information. Another thing that recently happened is they, started taking down things on government websites or telling researchers and scientists, you can't use these words. And there's a long list of the words that they're not allowed to use. It includes women and diversity, and it includes the word COVID. And, they were saying you're not allowed to communicate with the public using these words. And that's really dangerous for scientists, researchers not to be able to use certain language to communicate with the public. That's going to disturb public health and safety concerns. And the American Association of Cancer Research called this very disruptive. And right now with the state of AI and technology and Google searches and algorithms, it can be really hard to find factual information and use critical thinking. I don't think people are as used to using critical thinking anymore. When I was younger, we were taught in school how to go to a thesaurus, go to a dictionary, go to an encyclopedia, and look up information because we knew it was factual and we knew we could trust it, and now a lot of that's just been like thrown out the window. Like, first of all, people just search things on their phone. And then if they don't agree with it, then they go search somewhere else with different search terms and say, is my opinion right? Or and then usually they can find their something that affirms their opinion. And it doesn't have to be factual. So, we really need to teach critical thinking. We need to use critical thinking for ourselves. I think even, and everyday people can get stuck in the trap of, oh my gosh, they said this. And then nobody really goes and sees if it's true or not. So a lot of people are saying, oh, books are being banned. And then they'll kind of move on with their day. But the books are being banned in a specific way. School libraries and local libraries, they're trying to attack those kind of places. And those places are there to provide free access, to people. And libraries are losing funding. And now the Department of Education is, they're trying to dismantle it. And it's going to have really, really serious consequences and negative effects. So yeah, I run a book club, and me being here in Korea, experiencing an almost martial law situation, reading those books about, historical events in Korea when books were banned, is really scary. And just knowing that it's happening now in my country, in my hometown, it's equally as scary. And yeah, people really need to stand up against it and speak out, and we need to do everything we can. We need to email and call government officials. We need to vote in local elections. You know, do whatever you can do, right? Protest, make a YouTube video. Yeah, we really need to stop censorship. Like, seriously, we need to read Fahrenheit 451 again, collectively as a society. But I take pride and I take comfort in knowing that I can do what I can at home to teach my kids to be empathetic, kind, caring, respectful and assertive, stand up for their autonomy. So, it's not all despair, because I feel like at least I'm doing something, And then also as a bookstore owner, I feel it's my responsibility to read more, to know more about the situation, to tell people about it. And thank you for listening. I'm going to leave some links in the description of things that I've mentioned. You should definitely read Banned Book Club and No Rules Tonight. Yeah, maybe I'll put a few more book recommendations down there. And then also tell me your book recommendations and what you're reading right now. I'd really like to know. So thanks for listening. Bye.